Once the creative part of designing the movie is done, you then settle down to the hard work of getting it all made, and we were able to ultimately tackle a lot of different items, from the weaponry, the guns, but also the art department sending out many of their designs they'd already finished, such as the link units, the amnio tanks, for us to start building on.
I'm the point person between the art department in LA, run by Rick Carter, and the physical art department of New Zealand. We spent about 3 months doing research and building little models and figuring out how to build the sets. Getting a construction plan and process based on what information, because this was fast-tracked in that they were still designing the sets in LA that we would be building in New Zealand. So we would take every little morsel, every scrap of information we got and run with it.
In our original production plan, we were going to have a number of weeks where Jim was going to be able to get down to New Zealand and treat it like a normal show. And all of a sudden, because of the schedule changes and the need to edit, the need to turn over to Weta, that window that Jim was going to be in New Zealand before we started filming shrunk. He was only going to be down there for about 6 days. But we realized we had built a set of tools that could be helpful in this. And we took the virtual production and applied it to our live action sets.
We'd location scout. Just like you'd get in your car and drive out to a location and scout it with a viewfinder, I'd walk into the volume and I'd scout it with the virtual camera.
And Jim was able to rehearse in these virtual environments and made adjustments to the sets down in New Zealand without Jim ever going there.
I'm wondering if we should just sort of slide this part of the set around.
We've got roughly 25 sets worked out. We've got something like 40,000 square feet of floor area, plus the rainforest, another 10,000 square feet, so they're quite big numbers. The crew of 140, it's not a particularly big crew, but this was not the sort of show that you could just throw a lot of people at and say, here, finish that. It's just so technically demanding.
This is really nice. Remember that sentry gun we had? Sure do. Here it is. You can go shoulder, or you can split it and go two hands.
We built all of Hell's Gate that you saw in the interior, from the op center to the commissary where Quaritch makes his first speech to the jail cell that they break out of. We built the 2 shacks where they do the research, and we built the Samson itself. We had to build the link room and the links themselves, and these things had to work.
From Jim on down, you feel like in every department we're working with people who exist at the pinnacle of their craft, and the attention to detail and the demand for excellence on all levels, I think, is just mind-boggling.
It's almost like there are 2 different films being made, as there are sort of 2 different worlds. There's the world of the Na'vi and Pandora, and then there's the humans, the stuff that's not necessarily CGI as much. And so it was kind of new for everybody.
You're not wearing a Velcro wetsuit, and everything's built so detailed that it kind of makes your job a lot easier than even being in the mocap world. It feels like a different movie because we've got a whole different cast, to be honest with you. You got Stephen Lang and Giovanni and Dilip, and then you got Michelle as well.
Stephen Lang had respect for ideas of duty and courage and things like that, and he understood how he could channel that into a character that's basically a villain. But he's this very pure creature, and he came in for an audition and he knocked it out of the park. He was just riveting.
It's my job to keep you alive. I will not succeed. Not with all of you. He said, "Do you remember when we met?" And I said, "I sure do." And we'd only met once before, and it's about 20 years ago. It was for Aliens. And he remembered the audition very well. And I find that kind of wonderful, that you can audition for something and then 20 years later you get the part, you know? I think it's great.
There is time to salvage the situation. Park
Shut your pie hole.
Or what? Ranger Rick, you gonna shoot me?
I can do that.
The live action side of it, we did more weaponry training, fight training.
Quaritch carries this laser-sighted pistol, and this comes into play occasionally.
We work with Stephen inside the amp suit and make it look like that he's been doing it for the last 6-7 years.
They didn't build this base for a guy in a wheelchair. They built it for able-bodied soldiers. You know, you have to work out how to do it.
We took him along to a local basketball game in the wheelchairs playing basketball, which was pretty cool.
Me and 10 of the stunt guys got some wheelchairs from the hospital and smashed them up a bit. And then you realise that your attention shouldn't be on the wheelchair, it should be on where you're going or what you're aiming for.
This right here is the Samson.
Michelle, she wanted to learn to fly that helicopter, that rotorcraft in the movie as if it were real. So I gave her to a friend of mine who's a helicopter pilot to take her out and show her how to fly a helicopter, and she learned how to fly a helicopter.
You're gonna look like you know what you're doing, but if you have to reach up and fire your guns, whatever you're gonna do.
I got a couple of really exciting hours in LA flying a helicopter with Kevin, who actually taught James how to fly helicopters. There's something about being in the air that's just beautiful.
Thank you for flying Air Pandora.
When you get in. Welcome to sunny New Zealand.
We never really felt like we had this first day, except when we went down to New Zealand, because that was a truly new break for us.
I can just have everybody's attention for a second. This is kind of a pinch me moment, and we're actually getting to make this movie. It's a dream project. You know, this script, the first draft of it was written 12 years ago, and we didn't start on the film then because, frankly, the visual effects guys told me I was mad to even try. We had high expectations coming into this, that we were going to see something exceptional, and I would have to say that our expectations have been not only met, but exceeded by the workmanship, the dedication, the professionalism. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everybody for what it's taken to get to this moment. Now, we obviously have hurdles ahead. There's no such thing as an easy shoot. I think, you know, when people wrap on time, it's because they ran out of ideas. So, don't count on that. Here we go. And action.
Dr. Augustine, you can't be up here.
That's false.
The thing that's hardest to understand. I fell in love with 3D when I made my first 3D film, which was in '95, and that was T2 3D. The logistics and the technology required were enormous. The cameras were the size of refrigerators. This didn't seem to be practical. So the Fusion camera was an outgrowth of all the 3D camera development that Vince Pace and I had done for several years previously. It was designed to be a state-of-the-art professional cinema camera for 3D production.
When we first looked at the camera system, we called it the reality camera system, or the RCS, because we were trying to mimic the human eyesight experience, so reality, if you will. Then Jim came with the name Fusion, which really is fusing creativity and technology. It's fusing the two images to form one, and that's really what we're doing.
The design of the camera has been researched for a long period of time. What they've done is just take all the weight off a 3D system and essentially assembled two cameras with a beam splitter that are able to simultaneously photograph two images at the same time. And you have a series of servos that basically you can align the two images or disalign them according to how much 3D you're looking for in a shot. I've never done a film in 3D, so the experimentation was really enticing for me.
Technology for the 3D, it's a little getting used to because it's like there's two cameras and they have to just check the I/O every once in a while. And it's not that different, but just a little bit different. And you learn quickly, like, it's a technical marvel, like, the fact that the cameras will photograph the same exact thing the same exact way, what your eyes do naturally. It took years and years to develop to make the cameras do it.
Cut! Once we're done shooting a scene, you can just walk 15 feet away, get yourself into a pod, put on some glasses, and watch your scene in 3D.
A lot of our sets, we made the decision not to build full sets. We would put in green screens and we would do set extensions.
Roger that.
If you take the link room, for example, we only built one side of that set. It was a mirror image on the other side, and we were able to fill that in digitally.
Where we are right now is one end of the armor bay, and it goes, you know, about 50 feet. You realize that the armor bay is probably 10 times as long as we have it. It's absolutely filled with heavy weapons and amp suits.
There's your man. See you on the flight line.
Our probably biggest gag on this will be the emotion base we built for the Samson. It's huge, you know, it's the size of a bus. So. We also have the Samson in the back lot, which is going to be hung from a large crane.
It's really cool. They basically land the thing. All the guys jump out just before it, like, hit the ground. I don't know how many feet in the air. It was probably about 40. And they turn on these massive fans to make all of the foliage in the ground move.
It's been the whole gamut of effects, really. Things breaking, simulated helicopter flight, bullet hits. fire.
Garrett sent me down his stunt breakdown, different gags that were related to those scenes. Door gunners are getting pulled out of Samson choppers by banshees. Also some stuff that happens in the Dragon. Multiple stunts and sequences where troopers are getting taken out. Probably the most technical movie I've been on. A challenge for everybody, but I think it's going to be a wicked product at the end.
I have to say, these stunt guys, I mean, they really gave us their all. There's such a great spirit there in New Zealand. The energy they bring, the excitement.
The live-action shoot, as it turned out, was exhausting. It was a 7-day-a-week process while we were down in New Zealand. So the shoot in New Zealand, which everybody thinks of as an exotic, easy location, was none of that.
I just want to say thank you very much for making this a long and grueling shoot, but a wonderful shoot in the sense that I really appreciate the energy and the workmanship of the spirit. No matter how long the hours got, everybody still pulled hard, and I think I'm on my way.
As we were saying our goodbyes on the set, the stunt coordinator came up and said, the stunt team has something that they'd like to give you.
It's gonna hurt. Challenge.
And I turned around, and here they all were, these New Zealand stunt guys. Some were Maori, some were not Maori, but they were all New Zealanders, and they had all worked on this haka. Apparently what this haka does, if translated, is it challenges you to continue to do your best. And that was their way of thanking me. And they handed me the taiaha, which is the ceremonial staff. And that was their way of saying, New Zealand thanks you for bringing this project here and for making us a part of it. And it was a very, very emotional moment.
We'll be back.
All right. Let's see you back. Thank you.
The whole time I was in the volume, I said, you know, if I was shooting this, it'd be so easy. You guys just spent 5 minutes trying to move one light 20 degrees around the subject. And if I was there, I could reach over and move it myself, and it would take 20 seconds. Then I got to live action shooting and, you know, moving big objects around in the background. And I said, you know, if this was CG, I could have moved that in 30 seconds. So the whole time I was shooting the virtual camera, I was complaining that it wasn't live action. The whole time I was doing the live action, I was complaining that it wasn't CG. By the time I got back to doing virtual production again, after the live action, I just kept my mouth shut. What I realized is that they're both hard, and they're completely different. So you have to have a good team that knows one discipline and a good team that knows the other discipline.
After the live action filming was completed, most movies are done. We still had a tremendous amount of scenes that we had captured performances on that we had not yet done camera on.
These would play back on the stage with Jim and the virtual camera.
And please.
So now the actors are gone, and he's out there with this virtual camera playing back their performances from sometimes months before.
Let's do a take.
Over there. Ready?
And playback.
When he looked through the lens of the virtual camera, it was as if those actors were there giving him the performances live.
Yeah, beautiful thing.
He would now go and create the actual shots that became the movie.
Action.
So after all the frenzy and activity of a live action shoot,
lifting.
And it's just me with the virtual camera out on a big empty stage for a year. It was a year of this, shooting these cameras.
Cut, say that please.
Now you've actually got sort of dailies for the first time, actual shots to cut with. Now you edit the scene, get that the way you want. And then that edited cut is what goes to Weta for them to finish.
We called that the template. We would see kind of where he put his light, where the compositional elements were, how the art direction was laid out. Basically, Jim handed that over to us as a master guide for what he wanted the shots and the scenes to look like.
Weta is only building what we're sending them instead of building out shots, and instead of going through these massive amounts of iterations with lighting tests and all these other things. We're giving them something that's much more concise, to the point. This is the length of the shot, here's the motion, and here's the camera.
And we just followed that. And we would start replacing that with all the high resolution elements.
Weta were able to field a team of some of the best animators in the world. And it sort of broke down into two separate areas. One was the creatures, and the other one was the characters, where they were animating from captured performances.